G'day everybody and welcome to the ScaleHQ podcast for the first podcast of 2025. It is a brand new year, and if you're anything like me, you are probably thinking about how to make this one better than the last one. Probably over the holidays you've been thinking about new goals and new challenges and new opportunities to grow, and I was reflecting over the holidays. And as I was reflecting, I was actually playing a lot of golf. I played a lot of golf in the holidays, which was awesome. Took a couple of weeks off, played heaps of golf with myself and my son, Sebastian, and other mates. If you've been following along, you might know that I've been taking up the game recently, or you may not. But I can tell you one thing, it's massively humbling. But here's what's surprising about it, is I am learning all sorts of lessons on the course that I've realized are exactly like the ones I've faced in scaling businesses, and very similar to the ones that I know that you guys are facing in scaling businesses. So today, I want to share 3 big lessons from golf that I think will resonate with you as you step into 2025. They're very personal to me, they're practical. I'm going to give you examples of where they've shown up in my professional life and scaling businesses, and they're exactly what I wish someone had told me earlier in my journey. I also have a bit of an announcement about something very exciting happening in 2025 that, by the way, I would love your feedback on, so stay with me till the end. But if you haven't already, before we kick off, I would love it if you would subscribe or hit the follow button or give me a review on your podcast player. I'd massively appreciate any of those. I know you can't give them out all the time. They're very precious. But if you were going to do one this year, perhaps you'll consider the ScaleHQ podcast or your next one. Let's talk golf. And again, if you're not into golf, all good, don't switch off. You will absolutely find this relevant. It's totally cool. First principle in golf that I was taught is you have to play the long game. And what do I mean by that? Well, the concept of obviously playing the long game is it's about patience. As I've been learning golf, and I really only started in June last year, June 24. So I'm pretty new. I played a bit as a teenager. I haven't played for the last 20, 25 years, and I'm now getting back into it, and I have been struggling. And because of the pressure I put on myself and my desire to be awesome fast, I have been trying to overcorrect. So, I'd practice one thing and then I'd see a video and I'd be like, oh, that must be the thing that's going to crack the code. So then I'd go to the driving range and I'd try that thing, which was completely different to the thing I was doing before. And that'd work for a little bit. And then I'd see another video and I'd be like, oh, because I'm not actually getting there fast enough, maybe I should try that thing. And I'm like trying this and trying that and trying this and trying that. And rather than actually having any sort of sensible, I'm reacting because of the short-term pressure I put on myself and my desire to be awesome fast. So I'm looking for solutions that'll get me there quickly. But actually, therefore, I'm overcorrecting and I've got no consistency whatsoever. I was thinking about this kind of where it turned up in my business life. I remember a time when I was running a pretty big sales and marketing function, about 120 people across all of our sales and marketing, the 7 to 9 brands that we had. And I poured money. I had 70 salespeople and I poured money into marketing campaigns that were actually converting poorly. And when I say pouring money, I'm talking millions of dollars, not like, 10 grand here, 50 grand there, like millions of dollars that were actually converting poorly. And why was that? Because I felt this pressure of, stakeholder expectations, shareholder expectations, team expectations. And the reality is the majority of those expectations were put on me by me, not by somebody else. But I felt this pressure of like, oh, I've got the salespeople to feed. I've got to keep generating the leads. So even if it's converting poorly, it's better that I keep spending and scaling up that lead source so I get the volume so I can keep these guys busy rather than necessarily fixing the problem because, I still had capacity to spend more. Now, what might have been a bit smarter might have been to get rid of a couple of roles, cut back on spending, kind of take a step back, regroup, analyze, replan, test and iterate a new solution, but actually test it, get some results before doubling down on it. And what struck me was when you think about this, over 3 to 5 years, the person who's making more deliberate, better planned and incremental gains are going to get the compounding returns that outperform the wild sort of erratic swings, the back and forth on the short term, the urgent, the sort of chaotic performance fixes. And I don't know about you, but perhaps if I put myself in your shoes, maybe you've set an artificial target, you've committed it, you've told the team about it, you've told your partner about it. And, you sort of put it out there in the world and now you feel this pressure to get there. And so then you're trying this and that doesn't work. And then you try that and that doesn't work. And then you try this and you're trying to get it back on course, but you're sort of swinging wildly from one idea to another idea. And the team is thinking, what on earth is my founder doing? Perhaps the opportunity here is to actually take time to breathe and say to yourself, you know what? What if instead of trying to get to this in, 6 months or 3 months or 9 months or 12 months, actually I had an infinite amount of time? What if I took 10 years to be awesome at this thing, whatever this thing is? Let's take an opportunity to relax, to consider, to be thoughtful about what we do when something's not working, like go back to the root cause, analyze it, unpack it, get perspective, before you move forward, rather than swinging wildly from one thing to another, looking for a short-term solution, usually because of the pressure you've put on yourself, and nobody else is probably giving you that pressure. You're probably just doing it to yourself. So that is about playing the long game, patience sort of being a virtue in business. Now, if you are keen to step your business up to the next level, like by taking on an investor or stepping back and installing management so that you can enjoy dividends and get out of operations, or perhaps you want to secure a life-changing exit in the next 5 years in your business, well, whichever one of those three things you want, you are going to have to really think about what you prioritize over the next few years, because it's going to matter a lot as to whether you actually achieve those or not. And that's why you're going to love my Scale Scorecard that I've developed. It is a new diagnostic tool which I'm making available for free so that you can figure out where you're at right now and what you should focus on next. But it is not some made up fluff that I read in a book. This is real world scaling, investments, exits. If you would like to maximize your chance of securing that step up or the step back or the step out, then come and find out your Scale Score at scalescorecard.com.au and click the button to take the quiz. Second golf lesson or golf principle I've realized is what my golf coach said to me, which is, Sean, course management over course bombs or golf bombs. What does she mean by that? Course management, not golf bombs. When you can hit a long way, which I can, because I do have quite a lot of power, but not always accurately, you tend to go for these big golf bombs. What I mean by a golf bomb, you're 200 meters out from the hole. There's a massive body of water in between you and the hole. There's a safe path. So basically, you can go across the water, land on a tiny little bit of grass, the green, but you're going to have to be super accurate. And it's kind of like all in. It's like total success, hero status, or total fail, balls in the water, and you're going to get penalized to at least 2 or 3 strokes. Your alternative is to play a safe shot up the right-hand side of the water onto the fairway and then play a smaller shot onto the green. Now that's called course management. The smart game is course management. You are far more likely to get a better score on that hole by playing course management, playing the safer shot up the fairway. Doesn't mean you're not taking any risk, but you're taking less risk and you've got a higher probability of landing on the fairway and then taking a smaller shot to the green than clearing the water, landing on a really tiny patch of green and not having the ball fly off the other side. So that is a golf bomb versus course management. And I was thinking about this in business. I remember when I was buying businesses as a CEO, I wanted big results really quickly. When we bought one of our first businesses that was doing $35 million in revenue, we thought it was going to do $100,000 in profit off $35 million of revenue. Absolutely insane. And we figured that we could get it back to probably $5 million in profit pretty quickly. That's 15% EBITDA. You think, it's pretty reasonable to make 15% on a $35 million top. Who would even have a business that costs $34.9 million to run to get $35 million in revenue? It doesn't make any sense, right? And I thought, we're pretty smart. We can get this done in 12 to 18 months. So what did we do? We tried to do everything at once. We went for the golf bomb. We did a big set of redundancies. We changed the leadership team. We changed the strategy. We changed the products. Not all of them, but some of them. We rebuilt the entire sales ecosystem from the ground up, and we started nearly all of it all at the same time. And yes, in the first 6 months, we actually nailed about half of the goal. We got about $2.5 or $3 million of annualized savings in 6 months, which was an amazing result, but it was still only halfway there. The smart thing to do would have been to actually wait 12 months and just focus on the costs first and bed that in, and then think about focusing on, maybe do the costs and the leadership and then focus on sales. We actually only had so much capacity and the business could handle only so much change. Like I thought rebuilding the sales capability would probably take us 12 to 18 months, but it took us 3 years. And because we were trying to do it all at once, we pushed the new business to its limits and we created significant and unnecessary, to be honest, stress for ourselves, for me and my team as the new owners. But the smart game, the course management game, would have been to think, let's do all the savings. Then we'll rebuild the leadership. Then we'll rebuild the sales team, not tackle it all at once because our eyes were too big for our stomach and we were going for the kind of hero shot to try to get all of it done at once. Now think about this from your own perspective. Perhaps you have told yourself that a massive partnership or some new product or service launch or some big tech investment or some big marketing blitz is going to be the way that you are going to hit the golf bomb. You are going to knock it out of the park. You're going to get 100% growth in the next year. And your belief is so strong, you overinvest in the human resources to support it. So you're going for the green. You think it's like you build everything around this is going to be the thing. But good course management would say, okay, cool. It could be amazing. Let's put a bow around it and pilot it. Let's trial it. Let's test it. Let's run it like a project. Let's learn then we'll set a target. Let's keep our cost variable in the short term. And then if it works, we'll add resources and targets and budgets and people and all the rest. Not going all in and going for gold from day one with no evidence and no data and no testing. All or nothing is a high risk strategy in business. And I know that sometimes it pays off. But don't forget that when you hear stories of it paying off, you're only ever hearing it from the people who it paid off for, which might be the 5%. And the 95% who took the massive all-in risk actually failed, destroyed their business or halved their business or really screwed things up big time. And I believe personally in doubling down. I absolutely believe in putting more of your eggs in a small number of baskets rather than trying to do everything. That's absolutely consistent. But when I teach strategy and we build a StratEx plan, which is a 3-year growth strategy and an aligned 12-month execution plan, a core part of that strategy is choosing 2 to 3 big bets, 2 or 3 major sort of investment areas over 3 years. Not 8 areas, not 10 areas, not 15 areas. And before we settle on them, we analyze it from lots of different perspectives. We really think about it. We prioritize, we use matrices, we ask ourselves, what are all the assumptions we need to test before we fully dive into this and add a whole bunch of resources. Now, sometimes founders I work with, sometimes they skip that stage and they forget the assumptions and they just go for it. And sometimes it works out. And sometimes in 12 months, we're reviewing those big bets they put together because the assumptions didn't work out. And I'm not saying that you can spend your whole life planning. So it's not about, everything has to be planning and everything has to take a long time and everything needs lots of analysis. It's a balance. But the question is, for you, is it time for you to go for the green from 200 meters out over a massive body of water? Or is it time to play a safer shot up the fairway, knowing it might, take you one more shot to get there, take you a little bit longer, and it'll stroke your ego less, it'll be a little less exciting, but it's actually got a higher chance of working out. So that is number 2, which is course management over golf bombs. The third thing I realized in playing golf over the last sort of 6 months and really trying to get better at it was that the right frameworks and the right support are massive accelerants of performance. When I started, I was going to the driving range for usually 2 hours at a time. Sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, because Sebastian and I absolutely love playing this game together. But I had absolutely no strategy or framework to think about how do I spend this 2 hours. So I'd get there, I'd get a couple of baskets of balls, I'd hit some drives, I'd hit some iron shots, I'd hit some chips, I'd do some putting, I'd do some work in the bucket. I was literally just practicing shots. I guess I assumed that I would somehow get better by just more practice, as opposed to thinking, perfect practice makes perfect, not practice makes perfect. Sometimes actually just practicing the wrong thing doesn't get you anywhere whatsoever. And I realized over the first 3 months, I wasn't actually improving. So then I started watching some videos and I realized, people actually have, this seemed like a surprise to me. There's actually drills and frameworks for, when you do putting practice, first do this drill, then do that drill. And then these actually stack together and you do one, then you do the second one. And you do this for a reason because it starts to build a skill from the bottom up and the results will improve. So I started doing that. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to start using frameworks of other people who've done this before that have been proven up in the real world where they're getting real world results. That makes a lot of sense. So I was doing that. But because it was very one way and it was not interactive at all, I wasn't confident I was getting it right. And I'm ambitious and I want to get good fast. So I thought, I could keep winging it, and sort of just making it up and hoping that I'm giving myself the right feedback, or I could get a coach. And then I realized actually maybe I could get a coach who has their own framework. So by adding her frameworks and her perspective, I started improving and still making ground every month, slowly but surely. I started with a handicap of about a billion. Now I've got a handicap of 19 and, I started 7 months ago, really. And I'm hoping to get down to, I don't know, maybe a handicap of 10 or something by the end of 26. And if you know nothing about what handicaps are, 10's a pretty good handicap. It's not like pro tour type stuff, but it's like pretty decent recreational golfer if you're below 10. Anyway, hoping to get there by the end of 26. Give myself a few years. From a business and scaling example perspective, when I was building Adventure Co, the education portfolio, one of the things I knew right at the start of that CEO gig was I knew I was going to have multiple entities very quickly. In fact, I had 3 entities in the first 12 months. And I thought, to really succeed in building this thing, to build a portfolio, what I'm going to need to do is going to have a method. I'm going to need a framework for analyzing the business, getting the growth strategy right, getting the operating rhythm right, getting the leadership and team stuff right, and then getting a growth engine refined that's going to produce predictable revenue and the right level of profitability. But I didn't have a framework. So I turned to books and I read like every bloody famous book I could get my hands on. I was spending every night, every weekend, months and months and months, like Scaling Up by Vern Harnish and Good to Great and Built to Last and Great by Choice and Turning the Flywheel by Jim Collins, Simon Sinek's Start With Why, books on values, books on purpose, books on strategy, books on people, books on recruitment. I was reading as much as I possibly could, and I was applying everything as rapidly as I could. And what I did was I built a framework in partnership with particularly one of the key people in my team, my head of people and performance. She is absolutely amazing. And we built a system, like a framework for doing a few things up front for analyzing a business and figuring out where the gaps were in every function. Like how do their sales compare to world-class sales? How does their people function compared to a world-class setup for a people function? Like we could analyze a business quickly, figure out what the gaps were. Then we could framework for getting the growth strategy right, building the operating rhythm of the business, getting the leadership and team right, and then tuning up that growth engine as quickly as possible and as right as possible to get them to grow so we could get on with the next entity. And we proved that it worked. So we refined it and continued to refining our 6 entities in 4 years and built that business from 3 million to 50 million during that time. And it's carried on since then. I've been teaching founders those methods ever since 2020 when I left. And one of the things I discovered was about support. What do I mean by that? Well, I had originally thought, like right at the start of that job, I joined a CEO group who was full of, it had CEOs who were doing at least 20 million US or 30 million Aussie in revenue. And I thought, these guys are all running businesses bigger than mine, and they're going to be able to teach me a whole bunch of stuff about how to pull this stuff together. And what I discovered was it was very ad hoc. They could share tips, they could share perspectives and experience, no question. But they couldn't teach me a system. They couldn't teach me a framework. And support is critical. And I found probably the framework I don't know, maybe it's not the 20%, it's like the framework did 80% of the heavy lifting and the other 20% was filled in by the support. But I had to like painfully build my own system because I couldn't find anybody. So even though I was reading all these books, no one seemed to have a comprehensive framework that linked. The closest one was Scaling Up, but there were also still a lot of gaps that I have been addressing since then and that I addressed through the way I built my own framework. But what I did get from this support network, from these other CEOs, was some massive perspective shifts on a regular basis. So it was really awesome. Like, no matter what problems you think you're facing, no matter how bad you think that, your situation is, I can guarantee you somebody else is doing worse right now than you and having way bigger problems. Like you'd be like, oh, I've got this problem. I have to, we're having a tough time. We're going to have to make 30 people redundant, and somebody else would come in and go, I'm on the verge of a heart attack. My wife has left me. My company's completely failed and I'm in administration. And you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe my problems aren't so bad. I mean, that seems a bit sort of offhand comment, but the perspective shifting was awesome. The point being, it's great to have people support who are at the same stage or a bit further ahead on the journey, but ultimately the framework actually does a lot of the heavy lifting, as long as you've got confidence that it was actually built in the real world. Because I read a lot of books and I thought, is this just something they came up with, through research, or have they actually implemented this in a company? That's one of the biggest gaps, I think, in business education today. Perhaps you're thinking about, how should I best tackle building a growth strategy that's likely to win? Or how do I help my people be the best they can be? Or how do I even recruit the right people? Like, how do I get the recruitment process right to reduce the risk of failing? Or what tech investments should I make? Or how do I build a sales funnel? Or how do I align the priorities of my team? Like, there's so many things to get right. And come back to the golf analogy, well, I could invent a framework myself through trial and error, as I did in business, cobbled together through different people's systems, or I could find a coach who has a framework and implement it cohesively. And I can either stay stuck in my own head with my own issues and giving myself my own perspective, or I can network with and access the wisdom of other golfers who've been where I am today. So for you to succeed in business, I personally think it massively helps to have a framework that you can follow that's been based on real experience, and to have perspective from people, or someone at least, who has actually been where you want to go. And I realized that in saying this, as I was writing the notes for this, that it sounds like a full setup and promo for me. And I promise I did not intend that to be the case. Teach them that process and have them embed all of those pieces within 3 years, so they have got the option available to them, one of those 3 options available to them in 3 years. The program is going to have a high level of support from me and other founders who are on the same journey, and other experienced practitioners in my framework. And it's also going to be one of the things I noticed that's a huge gap, in things like in many of the other popular models, professional development for the founder. And the founder has all this pressure on, all this burden on them to then teach other people in the business this new language and these new models. I'm building this in a different way, where it's for founders who already have some kind of a 2IC or a key person that they can share the implementation with. And it's going to be for the whole business. Like, it's going to have videos and materials to bring your entire team on the journey. It's a business growth system It's not a founder professional development program. So it brings the whole business along on the journey and gives you a lot of help as a founder. This is what I've been teaching founders privately for the 4 years. In terms of the way it's going to come together for groups, I'm currently at market feedback stage. I'm doing course management rather than going for the golf bomb. I am doing tests, and then I'm going to do a beta cohort, and then I'm going to get feedback, and then I'm going to launch it fully. I'm doing some testing over the sort of December, January. I need about another 10 founders at least to give me help by giving me feedback on it. No expectation they participate in Forge, but I would love the insight and the input and the chance to ask questions. If you're open to participating, please let me know. hello@scalehq.com.au, or hit me up on the LinkedIn DMs. We'll set up a call and you will get the opportunity to, if you of course decide to be part of the beta cohort and it makes sense for us both, then of course there's big discounts for those people. But more importantly, you'll get the opportunity to influence the way this thing actually comes to market and help hundreds and hopefully thousands of founders just like you get access to the best possible program to solve their unique challenges. So let me know if you're up. Hit me up on the DMs, send me the email. In summarizing today, the 3 golfing lessons that are going to help you with your scaling this year. Number 1, play the long game. Resist the urge of the quick fixes. If it's not working, breathe, step back, analyze, make a small shift, then move forward. Don't react, respond, not reaction. Number 2, course management, not golf bombs. You don't have to swing for the fences all the time. Play the smart game. Maybe before going all in on something, gather some evidence, do some pilots, get some market feedback, prove up your hypothesis before throwing the kitchen sink at it. And then finally, write frameworks, write support. Getting a framework that's been forged on real world results, it doesn't have to be mine, but get a framework that's been forged on real world results that you can adapt to you and get support from people who have been where you want to be and some who are also on your stage of the journey. It will massively improve your medium-term results and your likelihood of success. Obviously, love to chat to you about it. If you would like support from me, cool, let's have a chat. But it's more important that you've got a framework that you believe in, that you know has actually been tested and proven in the real world and isn't just from some book where someone's written up a lovely theory that they've never actually applied themselves. Academics writing business books. So thank you for sticking with me. This year is going to be full of opportunity. It's obviously going to be full of challenges, and how you approach them is likely to define your results this year. So thank you for tuning in. Let's make 2025 the year that we all play the long game and that we build something that lasts. Follow me and let's scale together, people.